Okay. Next case is Bryson M. Moffitt versus Justin Denson, small claims number 5393. Let me go ahead and get all parties to raise their right hand. Mr. Moffitt, do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Very good. I have read the plaintiff's petition and then the response submitted by the respondent, Mr. Denson, in this matter. So now, Mr. Moffitt, you may begin.
Yes, sir. I was a tenant at one of Justin Dennis's. He was my landlord. I believe I moved in. The lease began in July, even though I was there the 30 days prior, just kind of on our good word. But the actual lease began in July. Unfortunately, due to life circumstances, in November, I was arrested for an alleged crime that I have not been convicted of yet. During that time, I'd say about 3 to 4 days into my arrest while I was in Tarrant County Jail, I had people on my behalf, on my party, trying to get my items from my home at 1509 Harrington Avenue. During that time, Justin Denison let my party know that he was not going to be able to give them my items and that they were on the curb. He then had someone moved into my space that I was renting, and I was paid up through the month of November. And I was also paid for first and last month, which would have been December. I went into jail on November 19th. I came out of jail on December 12th. I went to Justin Dennis's home on December 13th.
Hang on a second. Give me those dates again, because that's an important part. The dates are what?
I was arrested on November 19th.
Uh-huh.
And I was released on December 12th.
Okay, continue.
And I had paid up rent through November. But when we very first started the lease, I paid for first and last month's rent. So if December would have been the last month, I would have been paid up for that as well. Regardless, I think I could make a very good, valid point of why I did not meet the requirements for an eviction. Whether or not that to be true, under the Property Code Title 4, Chapter 24, Section 24005, notice to vacate prior to filing an eviction suit. Justin Dennison never gave me a notice to vacate, nor did he ever file the proper paperwork for an eviction notice. Instead, he took matters into his own hands, threw my items into the street, and actually began to sell some of my items on some of the local trading apps like Facebook Marketplace or in 5 Mile. It's a very unfortunate thing that happened. All I wanted was my items back. I understand it was a very tense situation for all of us, but I think it was handled very irresponsibly, and that's why we're here today, Judge.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Denson.
Okay. He is on a it's a 30-day rental agreement. He was good from November 1st to November 30th. The first and last month's rent, that we don't never require that. So that was incorrect when he said that. He was only good from November 1st to the 30th. November 19th is when the police kicked in the door. I don't know what they were searching for, but he was in for murder. So I guess they were looking for firearms. So the police tore out the walls, ripped up the carpet, went through. I mean, it looked like a tornado hit the place. So we had to replace the door. He was given a 3-day notice because Texas is 30-day policy, 3-day notice. His family was notified to remove his items. No one ever came here. So we advised him that his items are placed at the street, and his notice was 72 hours. So he was also, when he was released on the 12th of December, he came here and we talked, and he said he didn't have anything. Could I help him out? So I gave him $200 cash, and he says that I don't have anything to worry about, that all of this is squashed, basically.
Okay. Well, thank you. Let me begin the process of asking some questions here. Now, Mr. Denson, first to you. JP courts are the courts of original jurisdiction for all eviction cases. Did you file a cause of action against Mr. Moffitt in this court?
No, sir.
Okay. Mr. Moffitt produced an exhibit, which is the residential lease that that I have in front of me now. It's signed, or the tenants initialed it, BM, I would put for Brian Moffitt, and then are these your initials here, sir?
No, sir, that's not.
Mr. Moffitt, who initialed this agreement?
That's Justin Denson's initials. Also in the exhibits I provided was the original email in which he emailed me that half of the, where he emailed me that lease himself from his email. Those
Okay.
were his emails from the lease that he provided me.
Got you. Mr. Denson, do your residential leases look like this?
No, sir. That's
Okay.
that's
Let me go ahead.
that's fabricated.
Let me go ahead and ask you this. Can you produce to the court a copy of the lease that you executed with Mr. Moffitt?
I believe we can find a copy, because what we do and what we've been doing for 6 years with all of our, we have three tenants at all times. And we have a simple invoice book that there's 2 copies. And I think theirs is usually a pink copy. And I can show you years of examples of the exact same pricing book. That it's a cheap, simple pricing book from Walmart that we use. We never type up anything like that. And if you would like to see my signature initials that I've been using for years, all my life, is that. That's how I do my initials. I've always done it like that. But I don't never initial rental agreements, because I'm not the one who write them. My wife is the one who hands writes all of the receipts. We never type anything, and I never sign or initial anything. It's always my wife. And I've got hundreds of examples of what we use with all of our tenants. We never ever type that. That's fabricated, sir, Your Honor.
Okay. So your testimony is that this lease that he submitted is fabricated.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Well, let me ask you some other questions. According to Mr. Moffitt, or I'll tell you what, why don't you tell me the dates? Give me your version of events with respect to when the police showed up and when he got out, and when you, according to Mr. Moffitt, or at least his petition, placed his items on the curb. What was the time frame according to you?
About a week, maybe about no more than 10 days, but about a week, because we gave him his notice, and then we notified his family, and nobody ever came here. And once we realized, we figured, hey, the dude's in there for murder, I guess he's gone, so put his stuff out there, and then whenever his people do get here, there's his items, and it's still set out there. And he bailed out, and some of his stuff, like the larger items that nobody ever could pick up, I stayed in it, and we have a storage unit in the back. And but we had to repair the damages and then release it out. We were, hopefully by the 1st again, so we can have a fresh tenant from the 1st to the 1st, like our goal is every month. And but we had to replace flooring, carpets. The walls were damaged. They were just.
And I understand. I'm a former law enforcement officer myself. I've seen what happens when there's an active investigation going on in a particular home, and they're looking for either property or an individual. So a period of a week, you on your own accord said this place is abandoned. That's basically what happened here. And you threw do you have any of his property at all?
No. He's retrieved some of his property, and I've like I said earlier, I gave him $200 because he said he doesn't have any clothes, he doesn't have anything. Can I help him out? And he says, all this is under the bridge, but can you help me out with something? Okay. So I gave him $200.
All right. And then your testimony is that you supplied him with a 3-day notice to vacate.
Correct.
Do you have the copy of that notice to vacate?
No, it was no, sir.
Okay. All right. And then now I've been researching the whole bit of abandonment. And basically, the most simplistic definition in the property code is that you as the location, you, the property owner, you don't know where the other the property who it belongs to, you don't know where that person's at. But there's no basically specific time frame for this. But we're only really talking about a period of a month that that he was actually out and gone. And so I'm just, and then according to your testimony, it was about a week. So here he's gone for a month, but in a period of a week, you decided to discard his property. Then later, you gave him $200 is basically say, hey, your stuff was gone. Here's $200. According to you, that cleared up the entire matter. Is that correct?
No, sir, that's not the intent. The main motive from the beginning, once I realized it was abandoned, was to get the property back to par again. I didn't want to leave. There was about 2 feet of clothes and random things and all over the floor. So we needed to clean the unit up. We couldn't leave it like that. The door couldn't shut. It was the way it was kicked in. It needed immediate repairs. So I'm like, you know what? We're gonna clean this up and get it back on the market again.
Sure, and you have every right to secure your property. That I don't discount that. I'm just basically trying to get in my head. It's just the time frame here. Mr. Moffett was incarcerated from the 19th to the 12th, less than 30 days. But during that week's duration, according to what you just told me, that's when you went ahead and executed the.
It wasn't within a week. It was on the minimum, a week minimum. Around 7 to 10 day mark is when we decided, we can't let it sit like that. We have to do something.
Okay, not to secure your property, but to discard his property.
No, sir.
I mean, his tangible items, which were either set on the curb or given away to his relatives, whatever.
Well, the family was notified. The family was notified, but nobody ever came.
Okay, the family was notified.
Yes, sir.
When did you notify the family?
As soon as we found out, and I think it was his girlfriend that had called.
Okay, all right. Thanks, Mr. Moffett. Let me come over here now to Mr. Moffett. Mr. Moffett, tell me about this $200 agreement that you all had. What was that like?
Yes, sir. So I had everything I've ever owned inside that apartment. And so he is correct. When I got out, I had literally the shoes and the clothes that were on my feet. And so me being the person I am, I said, maybe I understand that he is correct. I was arrested for murder. I understand him as a landlord. Hey, we're probably never going to see this guy again. No one ever expected me to make a $250,000 bail. And so he took that opportunity to say, hey, this is he thought the stuff was his. That's what it was. So when I got out, I thought maybe he could see the situation for what it truly is, and that, hey, maybe I shouldn't have sold this guy's stuff and thrown this guy's stuff away, because me and him were decently close friends. I mean, we were friends for being a landlord-tenant relationship. So I thought maybe I could go talk to him. I said, hey, man, all I want is the money, that a somewhat relative close amount of money of what my stuff is owed, and we can scratch this. I have a list of all the stuff of mine you've been selling. Even if I could get that back, or if I could get just something back of all the stuff of mine you sold, I think that's pretty fair. And he handed me $200, and I was like, man, this is nothing, but I appreciate it, I guess. And we talked about getting more after that. He said, well, this is all I got on me, but reach back out to me and we'll go to the bank and we'll make a withdrawal for you. And I said, okay, that sounds good, because, my motive isn't to, ruin anybody's life. All I want is to be compensated for my things that were sold and or thrown away. That is the complete story of what happened with that, sir.
Okay, so unlike what he's saying in your version is, almost a down payment of what else needs to come.
That's what it was supposed to be. I can
No,
assure you, I had.
Wait
that's
a
not
minute,
true. That's not true at all.
Mr. Denson, I'm asking the questions at this point. I will give you an opportunity to respond. Thank
Yes,
you.
sir.
Mr.
Yes, sir.
Moffitt?
I can assure you, I had a lot more value in that apartment than $200, sir.
Okay, now, Mr. Denson, you wanted to say something.
The very end of that, when he mentioned the ATM part, that we can go to an ATM, that never happened. That's a lie. The repairs that took place that I needed to do over there on that unit to get it back up. It's only a studio apartment. It's not even a regular apartment. There's not even 520 square feet in there. It's basically a studio. The amount that we had to pay for repairs to get the unit back up to par again is significantly more than what he feels the value of his property is in there. The $200, at that point, yes, I understand that you're fresh out and you're needing to get back on your feet, and nobody knew that you were going to return for a murder case. So since all of his property is gone, even though we still had to repair the unit, like he said, we're on good terms. So that's the least I could do is $200 because that's actually what I had in my pocket. But the ATM deal, we never ever talked about that. So
Okay. But, and just to be clear, you have not filed a counterclaim in this case against Mr. Moffitt for the repairs.
No, sir. I didn't feel the need to do that since he told me, hey, everything's good now. Don't even worry about that case that I filed. And that was the very last words when we last spoke. That was the very last thing that we spoke. So I felt
Mr.
everything.
Moffitt,
if you notice, he's backtracking on his words. So if you picked it up, he said that I came to him when I was fresh out of jail. And then he just said that you don't have to worry about the case that I filed. But I didn't file this case until January or February, which is not when I was fresh out, which it's impossible with what he's saying. He's saying that I visited him fresh out of jail. And I told him not to worry about this case that I filed, but I didn't file this case until January or February, which is significantly after when I first got out.
I was served the papers. No, listen, I was served the papers before you got out by a constable. Okay, and then whenever you first came, you said, "Dude, I'm out. I need help. Is there something is there? I don't have anything. I don't have any clothes, dude. Is there something you can do?"
Okay. Thank you, Thoth. Mr. Moffitt, I have a question. Now you're suing for $10,000. How are you arriving at that figure?
I had 15 custom-made suits because I was in the security business. I was a bodyguard for traveling bands. I had probably 10 to 15 suits. I had a lot of sports memorabilia. I had a signed Ozzie Smith baseball. I had $1,000 knife sharpener. I have a list of everything of that was owed. Honestly, that's probably the low end. I mean, it's everything I've ever had in my entire life. I had 24 karat gold that was handed down to me from my father. My father passed away 5 years ago, and I inherited a lot of his items. That's where a lot of the value is coming from, of things that he had, a diamond ring, gold necklaces. I wish I had the appraisal on some of those things, but I don't. But
okay. Now, you have submitted, I believe, to the court a paintball marker and I don't know, some cologne or something like that. But you have not produced a complete inventory.
Yes, I haven't. I have it, but I have not produced it.
Do you have any receipts from any of the items that you purchased? These suits that you're talking about, or
I have invoices from the suits. I have invoices from the cowboy boots. A lot of these things were bought some time ago, and then a lot of the things were in my filing cabinet that I had inside the home. Which is like my appraisal for my jewelry was inside my filing cabinet inside the home. So unfortunately I had titles, my birth certificate, my social security card. I had a title to a vehicle that was lost in there. A lot of things like that I don't have because they were in that home. And also another where that $10,000 comes from is from the, I'm not sure how this works, but the security deposit, the first and last month's rent and the rent that I was paid up for. I mean, that equals, I was paid up until December and I didn't get to live there. I'm not sure how that works, but I have a few invoices, but not a lot, sir.
And you haven't produced those to the court?
No, sir.
And we're at trial today.
Yes, sir.
All right, Mr. Denson, what all that you bagged up or was set out? What items did you see that you can remember were set out on the curb or bagged up?
Clothing,
What kind of clothing?
jeans, bunch of t-shirts, socks, shoes.
Any suits?
I don't remember seeing any suits. That's what I was. I don't remember seeing any jewelry. The paintball guns. I kept those. The large items such as furniture, stuff that I didn't really want to put major stuff out there. I wanted to mainly clean it up and get it out so we can do the flooring and painting. So the large items we put in the storage, but bags of clothes, bags of shoes, blankets, and
Okay,
like
so
that.
you said furniture. Mr. Moffett didn't say anything about furniture. So he had furniture that you say is in storage.
It was bedside tables, 2 bedside tables.
Do you still have that?
No, he has them.
Oh, he got them.
Yes,
Okay, okay, all right. Well, I call it like I see it. And Mr. Denson, I certainly think that you're liable for a portion of this because although you say you went through the process of a lawful eviction, the fact is you did not. Okay, you don't have anything in this to provide to this court about a 3-day notice to vacate. No court action was filed in this matter, even though you said it was about a month. That's typically how long it takes for the eviction process to go forth with the filing and then a court hearing, appeal time. And so if you'd done that properly, we wouldn't be here today. Okay.
Got it.
And so, but it's just a matter of how this court can assess an accurate, a just dollar amount to make sure that there was fairness in this matter. And quite frankly, Mr. Moffett, you have not produced enough to warrant for this court to award you $10,000. And based on the testimony from Mr. Denson, although there are no photographs that have been produced, et cetera, that it's just a matter of some small dollar clothing. With respect to security deposits and so forth, it's in the property code of which you submitted, Mr. Moffett, what you need to do in order to try to reclaim anything with respect to that. And quite frankly, I don't think you even pled for that in your petition. Let me go back and take a look at that. No, you just basically had possessions, furnishings, etc. So I'm going to take this case under advisement, think through what I've heard, and review the exhibits that have been presented and award a dollar amount to Mr. Moffett. So judgment is pending in his favor, but the amount is yet to be determined. Once the judgment is prepared, it'll be mailed out to both sides. If either side disagrees, there's a 21-day period of appeal. Any questions of me?
Is there any way I can email a invoice, or are we past that point, sir?
We have passed that point.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'm going to take everything that I've heard and then obviously reread and make a decision. And so good luck to both sides moving forward. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for your time, sir.